We like to thank our sponsors, Chops & Co. Public Market. Chops & Co. specializes in locally grown, responsibly raised, high-quality pork products, direct from their farm to your table. Located in Jones, Michigan, give them a call at 269-244-1999.
You're listening to the Young Buck Old Buck podcast, presented by Forest and Sky, sponsored by Chops & Co. Public Market.
There we go. Heads up.
Touch him up. Dead bird. Dead bird. Get him, Sky. Get him.
Good job, buddy. Keep flopping.
And we're back. Welcome to the Young Buck Old Buck podcast. I'm your host, Daniel DeForge, joined by my co-host, Bruce Smith. And this week is a special one because we have our very first guest, my partner with Forest and Sky, Will Boyer. Will, what's the word?
Not much, man. Excited to be here.
Is this your first podcast experience?
This is my first podcast experience.
And he gets to do it with a couple knuckleheads like us.
It's amazing.
This is going to be fun.
It's awesome.
So we're excited to have Will this week. Will and I have been doing the Forest and Sky thing together for, I don't know, probably almost a year at this point.
Yeah, it's got to be close.
Yeah, I think June was kind of that 1 year mark. And so when Bruce and I went on this Young Buck, Old Buck adventure, we knew that we'd always wanted to get Will involved in the podcast as well. Again, the Lord has put some awesome things on Will's heart, and so we're excited to dive into that more this episode. But first, a couple updates, some exciting things. Number one, if you've been following the family journey, the baby has arrived.
Should have done a drum roll.
Bruce, how would you describe this little baby boy of the DeForges here?
Tank. He's a 1-ton heavy-duty dually. He's just a big boy.
He's a big boy.
And he's beautiful.
He came out 10 pounds, 8 ounces.
I think the stat that got me was the 15-inch head.
Yeah, you know, he gets his father's head.
Oh, boy.
My wife looked right at me and said, "This is your fault." Yeah. So we're excited. My son Miles has hit our home, and our kids have loved him well. I caught Kelvin, our 3-year-old son. I was in the garage getting something. I turned around. Kelvin's carrying Miles through the kitchen. So they have acclimated quickly to being
second day home.
Siblings and friends. Yeah. So that's been a blessing. Another exciting thing, we have some new hats in the works. I'm wearing one right now. It has the Young Buck, Old Buck podcast logo on it. And so I'm sure these guys will be repping some hats here soon. I'm going to be posting on our Instagram page some hats for sale. So feel free to reach out and support the podcast, support Forest and Sky by purchasing some of those hats. And so we're going to go into our outdoors update, segment 1 here. If you're new to the podcast, we do 3 segments: outdoor update, the meat of the show, which is segment 2, and then we end with talking about the Lord in segment 3. And so for my outdoors update, I wanted to present something to you guys because, listen, one of the things that I love about hunting in the state of Michigan is there are very few, if anything, that can attack you or harm you when you're walking into the woods, when you're hunting in a duck pond, whatever it may be. I feel pretty safe. You know, even walking in the dark, I'm confident that there's nothing that's really going to harm me. But I got kind of rattled this week with some recent news. They found mountain lion cubs in the UP, in the not even like northern UP. It was smack dab in the middle of the UP. And you know what? When there's 2 cubs, we all know how creation works. When there's 2 cubs, they don't just magically appear. There are some adult cubs, or adult cats that are in the picture.
Absolutely. This has been going on for years in this state. Guys talk about seeing cats constantly. As far down, and I know a guy that says he saw one right down the road here about 3 years ago on a deer kill. So This has been going on forever and ever, and the DNR just absolutely denied. No, there's no cats in Michigan. Yes, there is.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about this whole mountain lion thing?
Terrified. Absolutely terrified. It's not good.
Oh my goodness. I mean, so I'm just waiting for the whole like wolf population to start making its way south. I feel like that's going to happen really anytime now. I mean, bears are moving south.
Yeah.
I feel like it's only a matter of time before wolves start doing that as well. And then now we're going to have this whole big cat thing to worry about. And one guy I follow on social media, said once you get these cubs like this, that's it. I mean, the state of Michigan has to do some kind of management plan at this point because they now have this species in their state, and partly that's going to impact the resources of the state. The UP already struggles with maintaining a healthy deer herd with the wolf issue. And so
the wolf population's really exploded up there.
Yeah, so this is going to be another factor with that. So that's going to be just interesting and something to navigate.
I've got a really good big cat story from Arizona. We'll talk about that sometime.
Ooh, that is a really good story. Yeah. Mm-hmm. We'll have to make that's going to be a main meat segment 2 story.
Yeah, that'll be a good one.
Yeah. Cool. Well, hey, do you guys have anything to add as far as outdoor updates go?
Real quick, we were talking hats. This hat here, Madman Lures. This goes way back to my days when I was fishing the pro circuit back in the late 90s and early 2000s. A buddy of mine owned Madman Lures. And it went by the wayside after a while. We were all repping them for a couple, 3 years there. We were doing shows and just repping the product. They made a super cool little tube bait that looked just like a crawfish. It was amazing. And they took off pretty well. Then there was some copyright stuff and whatever. It went by the wayside at some point. Well, and I dropped out of the tour, and Darren dropped out of the tour, and Edwin's really the only one of the bunch that really stuck to it. We reconnected here through social media. Darren and I did just in the last couple of years. And he sent me a message about 2 months ago. He says, my kids were so little when all that was going on. They made me make more hats so that they could have part of that memorabilia. I said, man, that's amazing. He said, dude, send me your address. I'm sending you one. So I am sporting this and living memories today. He sent me a message. He said, I don't care how you feel about it. We're bound together by some pretty cool memories. Yeah. So tip of the hat to Darren Mooneyham. Really appreciate the little swag here. Pretty cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And, Bruce's fishing background, again, that's a whole nother podcast episode that we're definitely going to get into because it's a heck of a story. And so excited to hear about that in future episodes. Will, you have been on the road.
Yeah. I just got back from Kansas and Iowa and then Minnesota. So little work trip and got to do some scouting, which was pretty cool, pretty fun. Walked around Kansas for 2 days. Picked up on some private land, which is huge, right? Found some sheds and some deadheads, which was fun and cool. And then Iowa was cool. It's beautiful, land of the giants, right? So it's cool to put some mud on my boots there. And then Minnesota is pretty neat. Didn't find anything crazy there, but it was still fun. Yeah.
Now, does the Kansas tag system work better in your favor if you have private land versus public land?
Not that I know of. I understand that you can draw usually every other year out there. Usually takes a point or two. But I'm not sure with private land. Honestly, I haven't got that far with the research. So
okay,
yeah.
And you were at a couple shows. You were at the Pheasant Forever show, which is pretty sweet. I mean, that's a pretty large show, right?
Yeah, that's a national show. It was pretty cool. A lot of cool people there. A lot of big vendors. A lot of the big names in the industry were there. So it was cool to meet some people and see some people. Will Primos came and shook my hand, and that was pretty cool. And Onyx was there, and Rogers, and just a bunch of cool people and fun. So Kansas City was fun.
Maybe we'll get our invite next year.
Yeah. Well, they move that show around every year.
Yeah.
So I heard it's been in Minnesota before, and
I think it's Minneapolis next year.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Wow. Yeah. I really, really want to make it down to the National Turkey Federation show down in Tennessee one of these years. It just looks so much fun.
Yeah.
But I heard it's just packed. I mean, shoulder to shoulder.
Yeah.
Is that how the Pheasant Forever stuff is too? Or?
Yeah, it was pretty decent. Yeah, for sure. It was fun. But yeah, it wasn't shoulder to shoulder, but pretty busy, yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so for segment 2, we are going to kind of dive into who Will Boyer is a little bit. Will, why don't you start off by just telling us, how did you get into hunting and into your love for the outdoors?
Yeah, so I grew up, my dad was a hunter, my friends were hunters, just kind of grew up in the middle of nowhere. It wasn't until I was 14 till I really had an interest in it, and kind of seeing my friends hunt and seeing even social media stuff, and then just talking to my dad and having the opportunity to hunt some land. It's like, I think this is what I want to do. I think I want to go try and shoot a deer, you know? So at 14, my dad took me out for the first time on opening morning, and we ended up shooting my first buck, which was really fun and really cool. Something I'll never, ever forget. Yeah.
Man, so, I mean, how old are you now? You're 20?
I'm 19.
19. So it's really been a 5-6 year journey for you. And just knowing you the amount that I know you, and I'm sure Bruce would even say this too, like, holy smokes, dude, you've got bitten by the bug. Like, you are in it.
Yeah. No
You're
doubt.
in the thick of it. And you have had some incredible experiences in your past 5 or 6 years. Go ahead and tell the audience, what all do you hunt and what's your favorite thing to chase after?
Yeah, so obviously whitetail, and then waterfowl here in Michigan, and then also turkey. So that's kind of the main 3 in Michigan, right? So those are what I chase after.
And you've gone on some trips. I mean, I think it was this past August, you went out west. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I went archery pronghorn hunting out in Montana for 2 weeks, which was amazing. I learned a ton. Antelope or pronghorn have amazing eyesight, which made things really tough, but it was really cool, a lot of fun.
I heard hunting pronghorn, especially archery, it's a mental battle. It can just beat you up.
Yeah.
And I feel like, kind of knowing just some stories from you, you've experienced that a little bit. I think the craziest story from your trip and that you posted on your Instagram was a stinking helicopter landing right in front of you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was sitting in a water hole in a blind, as a lot of guys do out there, and I'm on state ground, and there's a pipeline running through the state ground, which I didn't really recognize or pick up on until I was looking for why this helicopter was there, right? So I'm sitting there and I hear this noise. I'm like, wow, that sounds really close, right? So back of my blind shut, so just for silhouette reasons and whatnot, right? So he comes over basically the top of me and just goes down probably 1,000 yards from me, and I'm like, what the world is this helicopter doing? And my buddy was probably half mile from me the other direction, or towards the direction of the helicopter there, and he couldn't see it, and he's like, what's happening? He tried to call me. He's like freaking out. He didn't know what was going on. He's like, who is here and why are they there? So yeah, that was interesting for sure. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine?
No, not really. But they guys out west hunt coyotes from helicopters a lot, so you never know when you're going to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big deal out there.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what out of the different things that you pursue, waterfowl, turkey, whitetail, what is kind of like your niche? What gets you up in the morning to go after?
Yeah, it's got to be waterfowl. It's so fun. I like the camaraderie with the guys, the jokes that are told, the memories, and even the things just to learn, things not to do, things to do, life lessons, and just eating your powdered donuts and drinking your coffee and talking with the guys in the duck blind. It doesn't get better, right?
Yeah, and I mean, this year was a once in a lifetime experience for you in the waterfowl world. Tell the audience about the kill that you had this year.
Yeah, so I was hunting a golf course, a golf course I used to work at in this area, and me and 2 of my other buddies went and jump shot 2 mallards, a hen and a drake, and a duck got up probably 200 yards from us and flew right at us, and all I said was duck up, and we kind of crouched down, and he just flew right up the pipe right at us, and my 2 buddies, well, one of my buddies was out of shells, and my other buddy only had 1 shell, so I laid into it, and it turned out to be a mandarin wood duck, which is crazy, right, for Southwest Michigan. So that was really cool.
Yeah, I mean the home range for that bird is typically what? I mean
They're on the West Coast, but it's an Asian. It's like an Asian bird.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
not typically found in the U.S.
Right.
Let alone in Podunk, Michigan, in the
Right.
southwest corner.
Right.
You sent me that picture. I think I was hunting the river that morning, and I just pulled out my phone, and I almost dropped my phone in the water because I was just like, "What am I looking at?"
You just sent it to me right away too. I was like, it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely insane. And so we know you're probably $500 poorer coming
For
up
sure.
here.
For sure.
Because that bird's going to the taxidermist.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't not mount that bird.
No, that's a must.
I almost wanted to start a GoFundMe for you just because like it just you have to. And so yeah, that's super special.
It's almost a shame that you did it so young.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys that hunt their whole career and never shoot a bird like that, just like we talked about deer and, you know, hunt their whole life and never even see a 140 deer in the woods, you know.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's a great accomplishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you got to shoot a banded mandarin duck.
Banded, that'd be amazing. But I'm just thinking now you get a lot of years of stories out of that.
Yeah.
Versus the old guy that shoots it and then he's gone in 10 years.
Yeah,
There
right,
you go.
yeah.
You might have 50 years worth of stories out of
Yeah.
that.
For sure.
Yeah,
That's cool.
that's awesome. Well, Will, tell us about kind of your faith journey a little bit and how you have, how the outdoors has played a role into that faith journey.
Yeah, for sure. So I grew up in a Christian home. Went to church every Sunday. Went to youth group. Went to a Christian school from pre-K through 12th grade. Had the background, right? Had the opportunity to fall in love with the Lord, but it wasn't until I was the summer of my freshman year. I think I was 15 then. I was at a different church that I attended just for youth group. I got invited, and it was a one-day conference that I, like I said, got invited to, and just kind of really met the Lord there. And just he encountered me, and just it's like, this is when I decide I'm gonna follow the Lord. Before it was always, I'll get to that, later in life. I'll get to that eventually. But really, then I was like, no, this is the time that I decide to follow the Lord. So ever since then, it's been a journey, right, of learning and wrestling with things and messing up and stuff. And so, yeah, now I'm 19. I've got some amazing opportunities, and it's, the Lord's definitely blessed me in a lot of ways. Something that the Lord has put on my heart with the outdoors, and the way that the outdoors has played a role in my life. Kind of hit on it earlier. I've really just got a heart for kids younger than me and those who don't have the same opportunity, like I said. So my goal really, or my vision, or my vision here is I want to get kids outside and in the hunting space and let the Lord minister to them through me in that way. Just getting them outside and giving them that opportunity. So
Yeah. And Bruce, I mean, I know your story a little bit. I know mine. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for the older men in my life who've poured into me. And I wouldn't be, honestly, into hunting, really. And we've talked about that in previous shows of Dave was a mentor in my life and got me started hunting. I know your relationship with your dad was just instrumental in your journey, in your hunting journey. And so it definitely sounds like Will's story and kind of what he's passionate about aligns with what you and I have experienced.
Oh, absolutely. You have to pour into the next generation. We're losing kids left and right. They're not getting into the sport. So it's the young kids like you that will appeal to the younger kids too. They look at me like a grandpa. It's cool for a minute, but so when you get a kid like you that has a real passion for it, will, I think, really make a big difference in a younger kid. Mm-hmm. Love what you're doing.
Yeah, super cool and super excited to kind of see where that goes. And I'll just put this out there too. If you guys are listening, if you know of a young person who would just love an experience in the outdoors. Listen, we're not miracle workers. We can't promise a trophy animal. We try to do our best, but we will promise that we'll put our effort into it and that we'll be good role models and teachers and show them Christ along the way. We want to do it well. We want to do it right. So we might, that might look different. We might have to require different things. But if you know of somebody, email forest.sky.hunting@gmail.com. Again, forest.sky.hunting@gmail.com. And we'll try our best. And we want to get people connected. We want to get people a taste of the outdoors. Something that I've been kind of throwing around recently in my mind too. This is my first time I'm even presenting this to you guys, is I would love to do like some kind of dudes weekend where we're talking about the Lord and we're at Willow Lake doing a weekend pheasant hunt, tower hunt, bring the bows. They got a little 3D course out there, shoot the bows, but then, we're talking about the Lord and doing some, discipleship while we're not hunting. So I'm going to try to keep putting that in the works because I think that's worth pursuing. And we know enough people with shotguns and birdshot and, that want to have a good time.
I'm pretty sure we can cover that.
Yeah.
No, that's a great idea. I'd be all behind that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a bass club, back in the bass club days, we always did a big kids fishing day. It was a Saturday, which was going to Gallup Park in Ann Arbor, and we'd get 100+ kids that show up for these things, and we'd have giveaways and all that. And they're just catching little bluegills out of a pond. Nobody's ever really catching a lot of big bass or anything like that, but it was always a huge hit. The kids loved it, and it ran for years. Very well received. So along those lines, I'd love to see something like that happen.
Yeah. And you know what? As a father right now, I'm trying to instill that in my own kids. We went pheasant hunting yesterday. I brought Calvin with me. He's 3 years old. I gave him his sister's Red Ryder BB gun with no BBs in it because I was afraid I was going to get pelted in the back of the head. So he walked around the woods with this BB gun that he could barely carry the weight of it. But there was one time I turned around and he wasn't there. And I was like, where did Kelvin go? And I look around, and he is in front of the bird pen where all the pheasants are, and he's got his BB gun, and he's cocking this thing back and trying to shoot the birds in the pen. So he hasn't fully grasped the idea of a semi-fair chase yet. You gotta at least let him out of the pen first. But yeah, that's fun, and I hope to instill that in my own kids, and that's my primary discipleship role right now is my kids. But I'm passionate about kind of branching outside of that as well, just like you were talking about, Will. So cool. Well, that's Will. Will's going to be a guest on the show in the future, and he's going to add some great value. And so we're excited about that. We're excited to have our third microphone. Again, thank you, Chops & Co., for sponsoring that and partnering with us. We're going to have more guests on the show in the future. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump to segment 3, where we talk about the Lord. And Bruce, the Lord has laid a verse on your heart for this week, so why don't you go ahead and share that with us?
A little bit of the backstory. Cindy was gone all week long, so I had a lot of time on my hands, and I was kind of YouTube and this, that, and the other thing. And I was really diving into some of the weird stuff that's going on in the church today across the country, some of the mega church stuff. So then comes Sunday, and our buddy Randall spoke out of this passage, and I was like, this has just really hit me hard, so we'll dive into that. So this is from Matthew 13, starting at verse 24. This is Jesus speaking to the disciples. It says, he put another parable before them, saying, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. So when the plants came up and bore grain, then the weeds appeared also. And the servants of the master of the house came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? How then does it have weeds? He said to them, an enemy has done this. So the servants said to him, well, do you then want us to go and gather them? And he said, no, lest in gathering the weeds you root up the wheat along with them. Let both grow together until the harvest, and at harvest time I will tell the reapers, gather the weeds first, bind them in bundles to be burned, but gather the wheat into my barn. And it goes on, and Jesus really explains the whole thing in the passage. But what struck me most about this was, in my research in the week prior, there's so many cool things happening in the church today. And it turns out there's so much false doctrine being preached, and so many absurdities and bending of Scripture. And they've deviated from the truth in so many ways. And they're doing it right in our face. They're doing it through music. They're doing it through social media presence. And people are buying into it because it's all feel-good stuff. It's so far from the truth, but thousands and thousands of people are buying into it. And it just really struck me that I would consider us wheat. You know, we're doing our best to live a Bible-believing walk, but around us are people that are buying into all this false truth, if you will. How's that? Mm-hmm. Does that work? False truth? I don't know, but they're preaching it as a truth.
A false gospel.
It's a false gospel, but it's so it just really struck me. So discernment is the word that's been on my heart. Mm-hmm. Is we really need to discern everything that's being thrown at us. The devil sneaks in the back door any way he can, you know, and you know me in music, I love music. And I found myself being really conscious of what am I listening to, who's doing it, where'd it come from, who's behind them, and who do they support. And it's kind of eye-opening to find out, some of the big names in Christian music today are really supporting what we would consider teachers that are preaching a false gospel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Point well taken. Valid. I think it's worth guarding ourselves against. Honestly, when I read the verse, my mind really kind of went to that whole idea of sleeping and how the enemy attacks us when we're sleeping. And one of the things that I just recall, we're approaching Easter time, and I start to think of the story of when Jesus goes into the Garden of Gethsemane, and he brings Peter and 2 other disciples with him. And he tells them, listen, sit here and pray so you don't fall into temptation. And what do?
They go to sleep.
They fall asleep. In the next chapter, or even at the end of that chapter, Peter then goes on to deny Christ 3 times. And Jesus kept telling Peter, stay awake, pray. Peter, stay awake, pray. And he keeps falling asleep. And so I just reflecting on my life, and the challenge for us, for me, is hey, we can't be asleep. We have to be awake. We have to be, faithfully in prayer. We have to be pursuing God. Because if we're just coasting, if we're asleep, the enemy is just going to attack, and he's going to plant those weeds into our life. And it's the idols of the heart. It's, that fear of failure, pride, anger, depression, whatever, anxiety that can just make us spiral and pursue things other than Jesus if we're asleep. And so that's kind of where my mind went to.
Oh, I love how that 2 views, when you look at that scripture and you draw 2 big things out of it like that. Yeah. So I go to complacency. I've used that word through my youth week years and all that. Complacency is death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. To kind of tie even more together is kind of what you was talking about, discernment, and kind of what I feel like you were talking about with music and feel good things, like emotionalism is a thing. Is having your own faith, right? So not falling asleep, not just going to church on Sunday and Wednesday and Sunday nights or whatever, but having your own faith, not falling asleep, seeking the Lord out in your own time, practicing those things. So when you experience those things or see those things, it's not true. And even in those times where people are are experiencing emotional things, you've been with the Lord on your own time in your room or in the car or whatever, and you can experience the Lord and you can talk to the Lord and you can, be with the Lord. So yeah.
Well, and to that point too, being in the Word and knowing the Word is crucial, because Genesis chapter 3, when the serpent attacks Eve, he attacks what God said. Did God really say that? Did God really say you can't eat from that tree? And so Satan tries to attack the Word of God. And so if we don't know the Word of God, how are we supposed to be able to discern that? And so that's a great point to really, be well versed, and have that sword on guard, ready to strike. Right?
Yeah, that's where a lot of these guys are coming from too. Is I'm not so sure that's exactly what he meant. Mm-hmm. They come up with their own interpretation of it. And I know a lot of it is interpretation, but they interpret things to fit the way they want it to work. Mm-hmm. And and that's my fear, is that's what so much of that's being preached like that today. Yeah,
I mean, it's a current attack on culture too, with all sorts of issues, all the major ones, and we're not going to go down that rabbit hole tonight, but yeah, for sure. So, well, hey, thanks for listening to this week's episode. Keep on sharing, commenting, liking, subscribing. It really helps us out. Again, we're going to post the hat on the Instagram page. Go ahead and DM us if you're interested in supporting us that way. And if you have any questions or comments or future show suggestions, email forest.sky.hunting@gmail.com. Again, forest.sky.hunting@gmail.com. And we will catch you next week. Thanks for being on, Will.
Thank you, Will.